I never planned on renting out the spare room. The last time I tried, it cost me more than money, but the night I posted that ad, staring at overdue bills spread across my kitchen table, I knew I didn't have a choice. That decision changed everything, even if I didn't know it yet. My name is Carter. I'm 24, and I fix cars for a living. Not the shiny ones people show off online, just old sedans and rusty pickups that limp into the garage where I work night shifts outside Portland, Oregon. The place smells like motor oil and burnt coffee, and most nights I'm buried under a hood until 2 in the morning. It pays just enough to keep me afloat, nothing more. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood where streetlights flicker and sidewalks are cracked. The place is plain. A sagging couch, a fridge that hums too loud, and a coffee maker I've had since high school. I bought the apartment 2 years ago, thinking it would make me feel settled. Instead, it feels like a weight I carry every month. I wasn't always this quiet. My dad died when I was 12. All he left me was a toy truck keychain, faded red plastic, which I keep hidden in a drawer. My mom remarried and moved to Seattle. She calls sometimes, but life moved on without me, and I stayed stuck. I tried renting the spare room once. The guy vanished after a month, leaving a broken lock and unpaid rent. I swore I'd never do it again, but promises don't pay bills. So I posted a simple ad online. Spare room, quiet apartment, $600 a month, utilities included, no drama. I expected nothing. Maybe a college kid, maybe someone desperate. It was raining the night my phone buzzed with an email. The subject line read, "Room for rent inquiry." I opened it, ready to delete it. "Hi Carter, my name is Elena. I'm a student looking for a quiet place. I can pay cash up front. Can we meet?" I read it twice. No begging, no excuses, just calm, clear words. Something about it made me pause. I replied and suggested a coffee shop the next afternoon. She agreed right away. I almost didn't go. I sat in Lenny's Beans, holding a cup of bitter black coffee, checking my phone and waiting for her to cancel. Then the door chimed. She walked in like she belonged there. Small, maybe 5'2", dark hair and a loose braid over one shoulder. Gray hoodie, jeans, nothing fancy. But there was a calm confidence in the way she moved. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on me. "Carter?" she asked softly. "That's me." She sat across from me, hands folded, no phone, no distractions, just present. I noticed a faint lavender scent, light and clean. "I like your ad," she said. "It sounds peaceful." I laughed a little. "It's just a room, shared kitchen and bathroom. I work nights." "That's perfect," she said. "I study online, graphic design. I need quiet." Something about the way she spoke made me trust her, even though I didn't understand why. An hour later, she stood in my spare room, looking around like she was measuring more than space. It was small, bare, a single window facing the street. "I'll take it," she said, pulling out an envelope. 3 months up front, quote. I stared at the cash, more money than I'd seen in weeks. "You don't even know me," I said. She smiled, just a little. I'm a good judge of character. Elena moved in the next day, 2 duffel bags, a laptop, that was it. At first, it felt like living with a shadow. We barely crossed paths. I came home at 3 in the morning, the apartment dark except for the glow under her door. Sometimes I heard typing, sometimes pages turning. Then I noticed small things. The kitchen was cleaner. Better coffee appeared in the cupboard. One morning a note on the fridge said, "Bought extra milk. Hope you like almond." There was a tiny coffee cup doodle in the corner. I stared at that note longer than I should have. One night, I came home early. The rain had stopped and the porch light was on. Elena sat outside on the old wooden bench, fairy lights glowing above her, a book in her hands. She looked up and smiled. "Didn't expect you back so soon," she said. I sat down a few feet away, not sure why my chest felt tight. "What are you reading?" I asked. "Jane Eyre," she said. "It's about finding your own way." We talked that night, about work, about rain, about quiet things, and for the first time in years, my apartment didn't feel empty. I didn't know it yet, but letting her rent that room was the first real risk I'd taken in a long time. And it was only the beginning. After that night on the porch, things changed in small ways at first. Nothing dramatic, just moments that lingered longer than they should have. Elena and I started running into each other more often, like the apartment had decided it was done keeping us apart. Some mornings, I'd come home from work and find her at the kitchen table, sketchbook open, pencil moving slow and steady. She always wore oversized sweaters, sleeves pulled over her hands. She'd look up, smile like she was genuinely happy to see me, and say good morning, even though it was almost noon. I'd grunt something back, still half tired, but inside I felt lighter than I had in years. We started sharing meals without ever really planning it. I'd bring home greasy takeout from the diner near the shop. She'd cook pasta or soup from scratch, the kind that filled the apartment with warmth and smell. We'd sit across from each other, knees almost touching under the small table, talking about nothing important. She teased me about my terrible knife skills. I teased her about how serious she got over pasta timing. It felt easy, natural, like we were slipping into a rhythm that didn't need explaining. One night, I couldn't sleep. The rain was loud, hammering the windows like it was angry. My thoughts drifted to my dad, to the garage we used to work in together. I wandered into the living room and heard something soft coming from Elena's room. A guitar. The melody was slow and familiar. Hallelujah. I stood outside her door, frozen. That song hit something deep in my chest. My mom used to hum it when I was little, back when things felt safe. The music stopped. The door opened. Elena stood there, cheeks flushed, guitar still in her hands. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't know you were awake." "It's okay," I said, my throat tight. "That song, it's my favorite." Quote. Her eyes widened just a bit. "My mom used to play it when I was scared." We stood there in silence, rain filling the space between us. Then she stepped aside. "Do you want to come in, just to talk?" I nodded. We sat on her floor for hours. She talked about music, about how it helped her escape. I told her about my dad, about the toy truck keychain I kept hidden away. I hadn't told anyone that in years. She listened like it mattered. After that night, we stopped pretending we were just roommates. We didn't say it out loud, but something had shifted. She'd fall asleep on the couch next to me. Sometimes she'd slip into my room late at night, curling up like it was the most natural thing in the world. I started waking up feeling calm, peaceful, like my life finally had shape again. But there was always something behind her eyes. A shadow she didn't talk about. One Saturday morning, she texted me while I was still in bed. "Can you drive me somewhere today? I need to get out of the city." We ended up at a lake an hour outside Portland. Pine trees lined the road. She rolled down the window, letting the cold air hit her face. When we got there, she kicked off her shoes and walked barefoot through the grass, laughing like she'd dropped something heavy she'd been carrying for too long. "This is perfect," she said. "No one knows me here." That's when I asked the question I'd been holding back. "You running from something?" She sat beside me, staring at the water. "My family is complicated. They wanted me to be someone I'm not." I reached for her hand, gentle. "You don't seem like someone who's running." She looked at me for a long second. Then she leaned in and kissed me. It was soft, certain, like she'd already made up her mind. After that, we didn't hide it anymore. We were together in every way that mattered. Nights tangled up in sheets. Mornings cooking breakfast half asleep. She made my apartment feel like a home. Then one night, 2 months later, someone knocked on the door. Hard. Insistent. Elena froze in the kitchen, spoon still in her hand. "I'll get it," she said, her voice tight. I heard a man's voice. Sharp. Controlled. "Miss Elena, your father has been looking for you." My stomach dropped. She whispered back, "I'm fine. Please leave." I stepped into the hallway just as the man turned toward me. He wore a tailored suit, cold eyes. A black SUV waited outside. "Miss Langford," he said. "Your father expects you home." Langford. The name hit me like a punch. Elena turned to me, eyes wide, full of something close to fear. "I'm sorry," she said. I just wanted to be normal. The man didn't look at me again. "We'll return tomorrow." The door shut. And just like that, the life we'd built in quiet moments started to crack. I stood there, staring at the woman I thought I knew, realizing the ground under my feet wasn't as solid as I believed. And I had no idea how badly it was about to break. That night, neither of us slept. The apartment felt smaller, like the walls were closing in on secrets that had been hiding in plain sight. Elena sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped so tight her knuckles turned pale. I stood near the window, staring out at the dark street, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. "Langford?" I finally said. "As in David Langford?" She nodded slowly, her eyes glassy. "I didn't want you to find out like this." I ran a hand through my hair. "You've been living here, with me. And you didn't think that mattered?" "It mattered too much," she said, her voice breaking. "If I told you, you'd see me differently. Everyone does." I wanted to argue, to say it wouldn't have changed anything, but the truth was, it already had. Not because she was rich, but because she'd kept something this big from me. "I needed to be Elena," she continued, "not his daughter. Not a name on a magazine." The silence that followed was heavy. I nodded, even though my chest hurt. "I get wanting to escape," I said quietly. "I just wish you trusted me enough to tell me." She stepped closer, tears spilling now. "I trusted you with everything that mattered." The next morning, the apartment felt wrong, too quiet, too still. I sat at the kitchen table with cold coffee, listening to the soft sounds of Elena packing behind her closed door. I wanted to knock, to say something that would make her stay. I didn't. By noon, she was gone. No goodbye, no note. I walked into her room after she left. The bed was made, the desk empty, like she'd never been there at all. Then I saw it. Hanging on the doorknob. The toy truck keychain. The same one I'd told her about. The one I'd kept hidden for years. My chest tightened. I sat down on the bed and stared at it until my eyes burned. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to hate her for lying. But all I felt was loss. The days that followed blurred together. Work. Sleep. Repeat. The garage felt colder. Louder. I came home to a dark apartment that no longer smelled like lavender or fresh food. I stopped sitting on the porch. Fixed the old bench just to give my hands something to do. But every time I looked at it, I saw her there, book in her lap, fairy lights glowing. I carried the keychain in my pocket everywhere. 3 weeks passed. Then one gray morning, I opened my mailbox and froze. A plain white envelope. My name in her handwriting. Inside was a letter and a key, the spare to my apartment. Her words were simple. Careful. She apologized for leaving. For not telling me the truth. She said she'd never felt more like herself than she did in my small apartment. That she hated the world she came from, but being with me made her feel brave enough to face it again. I read it over and over, my hands shaking. That night, I sat on the porch alone, holding the key and the toy truck. The air smelled like wet pine. I thought about the girl who rented a room and changed my life without trying. I didn't know if she would come back, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to hope. I left the spare room empty, and I waited. I didn't know what waiting was supposed to look like. Days passed, then weeks. Life kept moving. Even when I felt stuck in the same moment, I went to work, fixed cars, came home, slept. The routine was familiar, but it didn't feel empty the way it used to. It felt unfinished. I kept the spare room clean, not because I expected a new renter, but because I couldn't bring myself to change it. Her room wasn't a room anymore. It was a memory, a promise I wasn't ready to let go of. Some nights, I sat on the porch with a beer, staring at the street. Every set of headlights made my chest tighten. Every passing car felt like a maybe. Nothing happened. Until one Friday night, close to midnight, there was a knock on the door. Not loud, not demanding, just 3 soft taps. I froze. For a second I was afraid to move. Afraid it wouldn't be her, afraid it would be. I took a breath and opened the door. Elena stood there. No suit, no driver, no guards. Just her, hair loose around her shoulders, a single duffel bag at her feet, rain clinging to her sweater. "I wasn't sure you'd still want to see me," she said quietly. I couldn't speak, my throat locked up, so I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like she was afraid the apartment might reject her. She looked around, eyes lingering on the couch, the kitchen, the hallway. "You kept it the same," she said. "I didn't know how to make it different," I replied. She nodded, swallowing hard. "I told my father I wasn't coming back. Not yet. Maybe not ever." I stared at her. "That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," she said, "but staying away from you was harder." Silence settled between us, thick and real. Then she looked at me and said the words that had been sitting between us from the start. "I didn't rent that room because you were cheap. I stayed because you made me feel safe. Like I could be myself." I stepped closer. "You hurt me," I said honestly, "but you also gave me something I didn't know I was missing." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the toy truck keychain. "You gave me that," she said, "even when you didn't mean to." I took it from her hand, our fingers brushing. That small touch felt bigger than anything else. "I don't care where you come from," I said. "I just care if you're here because you want to be." She smiled then, not shy, not guarded, real. "I am," she said. That night, she didn't go to the spare room. She stayed with me. We talked until sunrise. About fear, about choice, about building something that didn't belong to anyone else's expectations. Life didn't turn perfect after that, it turned honest. Lena stayed. She finished her classes, took freelance work. I kept fixing cars. We argued sometimes. We laughed more. We cooked terrible meals and great ones. We learned how to share space without losing ourselves. One evening months later, we sat on the porch under the fairy lights. She rested her head on my shoulder. "You know," she said, smiling, "you really were a good landlord." I looked at her. "Will you return?" She squeezed my hand. I never left. Quote, "And for the first time in my life, I knew exactly what home felt like."